Thank you all for joining. We're going to start in just 1 minute to allow some extra time for some others to join. We're going to get started. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to the virtual public information meeting for state project number 8132, which is the rehabilitation of bridge number 1164, carrying South Street over Interstate 84 in Middlebury, Connecticut. My name is Jen Pixley from CHA Consulting, and I will be the MC tonight for this virtual public information meeting. We hope that everyone finds this presentation informative and that we will be able to address any questions or concerns you may have. So I first wanted to thank Leanna St. Germain from the First Selectman's Office for coordinating with the project team and for helping make tonight's meeting happen. Before we get started with the main presentation, I want to first walk through the goals and format for tonight's meeting. First, I will introduce the project team, including the department leadership and the consultant liaison and the design teams, and also explain how to interact with us during the meeting. Then when we have the technical portion of the presentation, which will include the condition of the existing structure, the purpose and need of the project, and the recommended design, which has progressed to a 30% level. Following the technical presentation, we will open up the forum to comments and questions. Next slide, please. So this is the Title VI notice to the public, which states that the Connecticut Department of Transportation operates its program and services without regard to race, color, and national origin in accordance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. Any person who believes he or she has been aggrieved by any unlawful discriminatory practice under Title VI may file a complaint with CTDOT. Next slide. So this slide has the Title VI notice to the public in Spanish. So I will pause on the screen for a minute before moving on to the next slide. All right, next slide. As part of the Title VI civil rights, no person shall, on the basis of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation of subject to discrimination in the development of this project. A link is provided on this slide for additional civil rights information. We would also greatly appreciate if you would complete the public survey after tonight's meeting. A link and a QR code are provided on the slide. Links to both the public survey and the civil rights flyer are also available on the project website. A recording of this presentation will be posted to YouTube after the event, and closed captioning, including non-English translation options, are available on Zoom and YouTube. Available to those joining us through Zoom is the option to view captions and subtitles. To turn on this feature, select the Show Captions button or the CC button at the bottom of your screen, then select the Speaking Language button, and then select the desired language. To use the Zoom Q&A function, select the Q&A tool at the bottom of the webinar window. The Q&A window will open as seen on the right. Then you can type the question in the text box and click Enter, and it will submit the question. So questions can be submitted in multiple ways. For the quickest response, please submit questions through the Zoom Q&A as noted on the previous slide. This function will only be available during tonight's meeting. If you would like to submit your questions through email, please use the email provided at dotproject008-0132@ct.gov. And lastly, if you prefer to submit your questions by phone, you can call 860-594-2020 and leave a voicemail. Please state your name and reference the project number and reason for your call in the voicemail. The project email, voicemail, and Q&A box will be screened by the project team, and the project team will then read the questions out loud. Questions may be asked at any time during the presentation, but they will be answered at the end. There is also a project webpage where a recording of tonight's meeting will be made available. The webpage will also include information that was explained on how to leave questions and comments for the project team. That website is portal.ct.gov/DOT Middlebury 80-132. The question and comment period by email or phone will be open through March 19th. For questions or comments after tonight's meeting may be submitted until March 19th via email or voicemail. Next slide. I'd like to now introduce the project team. First, from the Connecticut Department of Transportation, we have Derek Lassard, our principal engineer, Francisco Fadul, our project manager, and Corey Burrows, project engineer. Additionally, CHA is working on the project as the department's consultant liaison engineers. From CHA, Don Wurst, program manager, and Jen Pixley, the project engineer. Hardesty in Hanover is the consultant design engineer for this project. Steve Holm is the project manager, and Brian Kinsley is the project engineer. And VN is a sub-consultant for traffic. With VN, we have Sam Martha as the project engineer. I will now hand the presentation over to Brian Kinsley for the technical presentation.
I had to unmute myself. Thank you, Jen. As Jen was saying, my name's Brian Kinsley. I'm with Hardesty in Hanover. We've been working on this project the last several months to put something together that we think is a good option, a nice feasible option. The purpose of this project has been all along to upgrade this bridge to a state of good repair. And the major bridge elements that we'd like to focus on are the pin and hangers, the deck, and the bridge superstructure. We want to do this because the goal is to extend the service life of the structure, provide a structurally sound deck, and to provide MASH compliant railings. MASH is just a new term that means that they're going to be crash compliant. Here's the aerial view of the project structure. As we know, it carries 2 lanes of local traffic over 5 lanes of I-84. The bridge was originally constructed in 1964, and there have been no major rehabilitations since then. The structure has a total length of 381 feet from abutment to abutment, and the initial project purpose was to evaluate and replace the non-redundant pin and hanger system. Based on the condition and rating of the existing deck, the scope was then expanded to include a complete deck replacement. The deck right out there is original, but it's covered in maintenance repairs on both the top and underside, including some full depth repairs. Here's an elevation of the project bridge. It carries about 1,700 ADT over a 13-bay multi-stringer arch bridge over I-84, 2 lanes eastbound and 3 westbound. The current deck is 7¼ inch reinforced concrete, and there is a 29-foot long pin and hanger supported assembly at mid-span. The 2-rib arch structure is 193 feet long from center of pin to the center of the other 8-inch diameter arch pin at the other end, with a 4-inch hinge pin at the mid-span that has been enclosed by welded steel plates. And the superstructure is supported by reinforced concrete abutments and steel columns that transmit the load to the arches or to independent footings. I'm now going to dig into the existing conditions of the bridge. So you've heard me use the term pin and hanger. The initial purpose of this rehab was to address the pin and hanger system on the bridge. These assemblies were used to reduce analysis and design complexity while simplifying construction and providing bridge expansion joints. In the image on the left, we can see a pin and hangers, a quick pin and hanger sketch. One of the beams, the support span, is supported by a nearby column with a short section cantilevered out. The other side, the hung span, begins underneath the anchor span and has its far end hung from the adjacent support span. The beams have holes directly above each other, and the two holes are connected using hangers, a pair of connecting plates sandwiching the bridge girders. A pair of large steel pins go through these plates and the girder webbing to provide hinges, holding up the suspended span while allowing it to move longitudinally. Large washers are bolted to each end of the pin to retain the hangers. The pin and hangers on this bridge are in good condition and are still in service, but will be replaced using higher strength and more corrosion-resistant materials. And a new supplemental sling system will be installed at each of the pin and hangers to develop redundancy for these fracture-critical details. The condition rating on the bridge is generally a judgment of the component condition in comparison to its original or as-built condition. We use these numbers to provide an overall characterization of the general condition of the components being rated. On structures like this, we rate all of the major components of the bridge: the deck, the superstructure, substructure, and several others. And generally, they're rated from on a scale of 4 to 8, 8 being in next to new condition. The bridge deck, as seen from above, exhibits several new patches over the last over the last several decades. We can see on the underside of the deck there's spalling and some exposed rebar, and there's minor rusting. Inspection access to the parapet pin and hangers is very limited because of the way that this bridge was constructed. And as we can see, the bridge deck rating is currently a fair at a 5. The existing approaches have substandard guide rails. There is a drainage swale on the south end of the bridge that carries stormwater below the road at 2 catch basins. There are adjacent residential properties and driveways, and only the driveway to the north will be affected during construction. Access will be maintained to all of the properties during all of construction. The existing arch span is shown. The paint on the bridge is in reasonable condition, and the welded joints on the arches and floor beams limit corrosion and hot spots, keeping the bridge looking pretty clean. There are minor coating losses at the fascias and parapets supports, as water tends to condense and trickle down these locations without a drip edge. Water flows down the arches toward the existing bearings, which have been sealed in recent years to reduce any additional corrosion. As we can see, the superstructure currently sits at a 5. Here's the bridge substructure. Note the enclosure at the arch rib bearings. There are 8-inch diameter arch bearing pins, and they are kept dry on the inside, even on rainy days. That's due to the enclosures incorporated several years ago. There's minor spalling at this substructure due to the original formwork issues and minor cracking that's limited to a few locations at the abutments. There are also some exterior bearing anchors that show the worst losses, as they are the most exposed. These will all be replaced as part of the rehab. The existing structure carries a total of 4 phone and electrical conduit lines that run the length of the structure. At least one of the conduits is empty, and 2 of the other conduits exhibit full loss due to corrosion. And the lines inside are the only thing holding up these conduits. These will all be replaced during construction. This is the proposed cross-section of the new structure. From the top, we're going to see it's going to look essentially the same with new revised parapets that are crash compliant and MASH compliant. The new structure will have two 12-foot travel lanes and 5-foot shoulders, similar to what's out there right now. The new deck is going to be a lightweight, fiber reinforced composite deck that is held in composite with the stringers with shear studs. And we will have a new tube railing that will a new TL4 rated open bridge rail mounted on the curb. The summary of the work includes a replacement of the deck with lightweight concrete, installation of new crash-tested bridge railings and end blocks, regrading the approach roadways, replacing the existing wooden post barrier, and replacing the affected driveway. Beneath the deck, we plan to replace the pin and hanger assemblies and install redundant support systems below these pin and hangers. There will also be limited steel strengthening and steel repair, and we will include bearing replacement. On top of that, the bridge is to be cleaned and painted. The maintenance and protection of the traffic will be accomplished as follows. During the first stage, we will place temporary barrier walls along the I-84 median shoulders and then utilize short-term lane closures at nighttime and in the morning as we keep working on the bridge. At least one lane along I-84 in both directions will remain open at all times. This will allow us to complete the work at the pin and hanger span at the center of the bridge. During the second set of stages, we'll relocate the temporary barrier walls to the I-84 outside shoulders to finalize the bridge work. In regards to the traffic along the bridge, the South Street Bridge will remain closed throughout the duration of the project to allow for construction. While the bridge is closed, a detour route will be in place. This detour route will utilize Long Meadow Road to take traffic around the work area. Appropriate detour signs will be installed to guide drivers along the alternative road. The extra number of vehicles expected to use Long Meadow Road is not anticipated to have a great impact on the local traffic. And once again, there will be access to all properties at all times during construction, and there will be coordination with all emergency services throughout construction. And on that, I'm going to hand it back to Jen to discuss the project schedule and cost.
Great, thanks, Brian. So on this slide, I'll present the preliminary project schedule and cost, which are subject to change as design progresses. For a schedule, we are currently in preliminary design phase and will be moving to final design in the spring. We anticipate that the construction will begin in spring of 2026. The anticipated construction's cost is about $14.8 million, and the project will be funded with both federal and state funds. So this does conclude the presentation for tonight's meeting. We will now move into the open forum portion of for your comments and questions. As a reminder, you can enter your questions into the Zoom Q&A window. You can also submit an email at the following email address, which is dotproject0080-0132@ct.gov, or call 860-594-2020 and leave a voicemail, and the project team will get to them as soon as we can. So we'll wait a moment to see if any questions come in. While we are waiting, I can note, if you are able, please fill out our brief post-meeting survey. This can be found at the project website, which is portal.ct.gov-dot Middlebury 80-132. Your feedback helps us improve the virtual meeting process for the future, and we appreciate your participation. I'd also like to note that the comment period will be open through March 19th. Should you think of a question after the meeting, you can email the project email at dotproject80-0080-0132 or call 860-594-2020 and leave a voicemail to ask your question. And if you are leaving a voicemail after tonight's meeting, please be sure to mention the project number, which is 80-132, so that your questions can be directed to our team. Okay, looks like we do have one question here. So when will construction begin?
I should be able to handle that one. So we noted on the previous slide that the start of construction would be in the spring of 2026, but there are some materials for the project that have a long lead time. The stainless steel pins, for example, may take up to a year to order and fabricate. So while the project is going to be awarded in early 2026, construction will not likely begin, and the detour will not likely begin until the spring of 2027.
All right, great, thank you. While we're waiting for more questions, I'd like to also note a recording of the presentation for tonight will also be posted to the project website following tonight's meeting. And if we're unable to answer your question tonight, we would like to thank you for your questions. The project team will look forward to getting back to you. And again, I'll go through the ways we can ask questions. Again, we can do by email at dotproject0080-0132@ct.gov. Again, by phone, 860-594-2020. Here you will leave a voicemail, and also by the Zoom Q&A feature. All right, looks like we do have another question here. All right, if paint condition is good, why are we going to clean and paint it?
I can take that one as well. When the structure was built in 1964, the norm was to use lead-based paint. Since the structure is undergoing what we consider a major rehabilitation, it's a good opportunity to remove all of the existing coatings and use a more modern lead-free paint system.
Okay, great. All right, again, as a reminder, you can enter your questions into the Q&A window in Zoom, and the project team will get to them as soon as possible. You can also email at the following email address, dotproject0080-0132@ct.gov, or call 860-594-2020 and leave a voicemail to ask a question. Please be sure to note the project number, which is 80-132. And again, following the meeting, if you are able, please fill out the brief post-meeting survey. This can be found at the project website, which is portal.ct.gov-dot Middlebury 80-132. And again, our comment period will be open through March 19th. And if you think of a question after tonight's meeting, you can definitely email the project email at DOT project 0080-0132 at ct.gov. And again, you can call it 860-594-2020. All right, looks like we do have another question here. What is the expected duration of the South Street detour?
We are currently anticipating that construction will take about 18 months to complete. And of that 18 months, we think about a year of that duration, we will have to detour traffic on South Street.
Great, thank you. We'll give another moment to see if any other questions can come in. Or while we wait another minute or so to see if any more questions come in, again, you can enter your questions into the Q&A window, send an email to the project email, or call 860-594-2020 and leave a voicemail. If you are watching on YouTube, we will have the recording on the project webpage, and you can watch the entire presentation after tonight, including the question and answer session. At conclusion of the comment period, the report of meeting will be drafted for the presentation that will include all questions and answers during the meeting and during the comment period. Okay, so we do have one more here. Will there be contract work at night or during weekends? Will this work be loud?
We're currently anticipating that most work shifts will be between 7 to 3:30 on Monday through Friday, as the area is residential. And if there is any night work or weekend work, ideally, it's not going to be heavy construction or loud construction.
All right, great, thank you. I'm just going to give one more moment here. All right, great, thanks. All right, it looks like that is it for questions for tonight. Thank you everyone for attending and your participation in tonight's virtual public information meeting. We appreciate everyone's time and input and questions. As I said previously, we will be monitoring the phone and email address through comment period, which is through March 19th. A link to the project webpage has been posted to the chat. We are looking forward to a successful project here in Middlebury, and thank you again, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.